Naamsa's SA Autoweek is the largest trade show of its kind in South Africa. This year, Cars.co.za was the official media partner of the event, and we set up this rather stylish podcast studio. Our very own Chiro de Siena and guest journalist from CNBC Africa, Fifi Peters, played hosts and over 3 days interviewed all the key figures in South Africa's motoring industry.
For the most part, at SA Auto Week, we have been reflecting on some of the mobility trends in the consumer market, but we'll be shifting gears right now and looking at what is happening in the corporate space. And joining us at the Cars.co.za podcast booth is Khantse Radebe, the CEO of asset-based finance over at Wesbank. And Khantse, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Oh, thank you so much, Fifi. I love how you say my name. It's like you've said it all your life. So. A big pleasure.
As I said, it's my aunt's name. So she has the same name. She's a bit of a difficult person. I hope that you're not. In fact, you said that you're not.
No, I'm not. Easy.
Fantastic.
Like thank you.
Fantastic. Easy, nice and light personality, but in a perhaps a bit more of a complex portfolio. Asset-based finance, asset-backed finance over at Wesbank. Perhaps just tell us a little bit more about what your role entails.
Thank you. First of all, I hope I'm not derailing you, talking about corporates and businesses when you've had a week filled with kind of retail take on this. So let's talk a bit about, why mobility is important for businesses and what asset-based finance is and why we sometimes not prefer calling it asset-backed finance. So the first thing, asset-backed finance generally would refer kind of anecdotally or just more casually would refer to, the pawning business where you have an expensive art and you want to unlock some cash and you quickly can take it to a dealer and they give you, R1 million or 10 million rand or whatever, this precious asset is worth. So we call it asset-based finance because it is secured lending. So by secured lending why do we say that? Because there's collateral, there's value in the outside of the money that I'm giving you. We know that you're buying something that's valuable and that will add value to your life. And so asset-based finance, you buy an asset that helps you make money. Right? We call it productive assets.
Sure.
So they're assets that you buy to kind of move your business. So what do we mean? It will be anything from, let's just say a farmer needs to move their produce from one point to another. So they will need a truck or they will need vans or they will need salespeople. So they need mobility or they need mobility for their farming operations. So it's also then they need a tractor, then they need a combine, then they need a harvester. So, farming is actually, a big mechanized operation. There are a lot of jobs that machines do or mobile agriculture machines do that people used to do previously. So asset-based finance is just anything that requires an asset that adds value to your business and your operation.
Oh, thank you for explaining that to us rather simply. Yeah. So you mentioned farming, and so that brings the agricultural sector on the table. But before we started, you also spoke about the fact that your client base within this industry is quite vast. I mean, you're talking logistics, you're talking mining, you're talking construction. So there's quite a number of people in the industry, companies that you need to keep happy. But let's reflect on the state of your industry right now and who's the most active, just based on demand.
I love that you already know so much about our business. So I'll talk about, who's in our business and who's interested in it and why we are in business ourselves. So let's talk about, we like referring to it as corporate credit growth extension, right? So what is corporate credit growth? It just means, what kind of financial instruments or financial products are businesses into? And there's a range of them. And one of them is asset-based finance. And in the last kind of 5 years, it's probably the fastest growing financial product. So that's the first thing. And then the second bit is you're asking about, our industries like transport logistics. So, why is that growing? I mean, South Africa has had a big mobility problem. And what do we mean by that? I mean, we are a net importer of a lot of goods. So things get to port, and from port, they need to get inland, right? Inland just means, the rest of the provinces, kind of Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, kind of those. And how do they get in? They used to traditionally get through rail, an integrated rail service that was then also integrated to road transport. So, for the greatest part, we've resorted to kind of road and entrepreneurs who are in logistics to kind of get these goods into inland. So that's what we do there. And then we'll talk about things like, let's talk about mining, for example. I mean, mining is a big mechanized business. And what do we mean by that is that, they need hands on deck. And of course, we don't mean literally hands, but we mean technology and, how that technology is changing. And then, you've got big yellow metal distributors in South Africa who then bring these gandas into the country and they dig our roads and dig mines and get things going. So,
Quite extensive.
Yes, quite extensive.
So help us understand just in terms of the financing mechanism then. So if your corporate clients are bringing these assets to make you feel more comfortable in lending their money and also make you feel more comfortable about their ability to pay you back as Wesbank.
Yes.
Not you specifically.
Yes.
Maybe you, I don't know. but
I don't get paid that much. I wish.
Don't worry, I'll talk to you about. I'll talk to you about something. But does it make? Or does it help make the cost of finance more affordable, especially in this environment? I mean, to the point where we started, we have been speaking about consumers, and we do know that consumers have found it quite tough to take out money to buy a new car right now. One of the things has been because the cost of buying a car, because of interest rates, has been quite high. But obviously, businesses have been facing the same interest rate as well, and are perhaps preparing for the same relief. But does the fact that they come with these revenue generating assets help their lending case in any way?
Okay, so let's talk about that. So the first thing is that businesses are in a spot now where they've got to preserve cash.
Sure.
So that's the first thing. Now, on the issue around, just how expensive things are, I mean, they too contend to high operating costs and high costs of equipment. But what we haven't seen a big shift in the kind of assets that corporates are buying entirely. So say, for example, which I don't want to use examples of kind of the big yellow metal producers. So you find that those guys are still quite big and in the big, I can't mention, or can I mention Ivecos who are all here, so all those big entities, we haven't quite seen, of course, prices are going up, but what clients are wanting to do really is that they want to, previously they would pay these upfront, pay them cash. So the conversation we are having is, perhaps it's better to finance them over time so that you preserve your liquidity position. And so you use the cash for things that that are more pressing, like, paying your employees, like paying your suppliers, and then, just overall impressing the banks with your cash flow position. So the reason why this is growing is because they are also navigating a very difficult economic time, as you say, with high interest rates, with, high costs of the equipment itself. And so as opposed to being cash flush like previously, they now are having to conserve cash. So that's why this product is becoming more and more appealing to kind of corporate clients.
Sure. And also, the pluses of not owning an asset, and especially an asset that you have to pay such a huge lump sum for initially, is the fact that the rate and pace of innovation and technological change that is happening, you want to be in the position whereby when in 4 or 5 years' time, there's a newer model that comes out that you don't regret and think, oh my goodness, I'm still paying off for this one, but you're able to do that exchange. Yeah. With that said, and in terms of innovation and technological change, electrification is a major theme at this conference, and I just would like to understand what that means in terms of mobility in the corporate sector.
You see, here's the thing, because a lot of our clients produce these widgets, right?
Sure.
Whether they are growing apples or whether they're putting together widgets to sell overseas, a lot of downstream customers in kind of global markets, so or global destinations like China, like Europe, like the US, are very concerned around how were these products produced sustainably? Were these apples grown sustainably? And so, a big part of the cost of anything is mobility, right? And so if we don't as well just start, I guess, having less carbon emission and kinder, and just being kinder to the environment in how we make money, the better. So why are we here specifically is really to understand where South Africa is and where the various players are with regards to alternative energy. And can you even with your EVs, can you kind of charge up with cleaner energy? And what does the infrastructure look like? So, I mean, we've done a fleet of buses, for example, all EV, right? In Cape Town for a big. I mean, we see them everywhere, but again, I don't know if I want to mention this name, but I mean,
but you don't want to give free advertising.
No, but I mean, maybe they just want to, the client, it's not a listed company and maybe they want to keep it closed.
All right.
But I mean, they've just done funding of their electric vehicle, of their buses, which are all EVs. They've got them into the country, kind of in commission already. And that's a good news story to tell. We always talk about the air quality of cities. I mean, Cape Town is probably one of the greener cities in the world. And I mean, the more we do that, the better for all of us. So why are we here as well is just to see where South Africa is. We've just had a big kind of entourage of guys leaving Johannesburg through PE into Cape Town, and just to seeing, is it actually doable? And the feedback is quite shocking as well, to say we probably aren't, and there's a lot more that we've got to get going. Charging points, so you can't have, you can't be charging kind of 20 vehicles at a time, for example, because they're probably just at a filling station. There aren't enough charging points to begin with. So I think the acceleration of greening mobility in South Africa is a big one for us. And
I think in most countries, ourselves included, people use the sales of your big cars, the machineries, the gandas, as you said, as a barometer of whether the economy is turning the corner and beginning to grow, right? And a lot of the stakeholders here at Autoweek were asking them that question, just given the fact that the forecast is that 2025 could look a lot better for the overall industry. Not quite as good as things were before the pandemic, but certainly not a situation whereby the industry is in reverse, as has been the case in the recent while. What is your thoughts and outlook specifically for the year ahead for the corporate sector specifically?
So I think, first of all, I think the interest rate cuts is going to stimulate a lot of growth. And you're right, buying equipment is a lead indicator around economic activity. And we've seen a lot of growth, actually, inversely to other products and other areas. We've seen a lot of growth in asset-based finance in the last 2 years. And the reason for that is that, kind of between 2020 and 22, companies were hesitant to buy assets. They were saying, okay, we don't know, there's too much uncertainty here. So this asset that I have, I'm going to ride it till it cannot ride anymore. So we call it sweating assets. So companies were sweating their assets. And then come 2022, they realize, okay, this economy is going again. People are getting around, people are buying more, people are visiting the country, contracts are opening up, and projects are just on the go. And then they started, recapitalizing and refleeting and replacing. So we saw a surge of a replacement cycle, and that is great news. And then compounded by the rail situation. So, there were business needs, there was a sweating of asset, and then this big replacement comes. So in fact, in inverse, now we are seeing guys have just refleeted, and then they're waiting to see this this rainbow that's now come, and
Sure.
we want to see this kind of organic economic growth that everybody is trying to back. So we are looking forward to all of that, to that organic growth. And I mean, the economists will talk to you about the structural reform, why they need that stability. So we are all looking forward to that, so that that also could inspire growth. What we've had in the last while is that businesses were backing themselves while the economy was a headwind. Now we are waiting for the economy to be a tailwind for
Sure.
once, and just support and anchor this tough time that businesses have had to kind of navigate it so well, to be honest.
And I think the word resilient comes to mind. We've heard it probably one too many times describing business and actually South Africans in the recent while. Khantse, I want to bring it down to a personal level. I mean, there's so many cars here, seen so many classic cars. We're hearing about new models coming into the market. We're seeing sort of the current cars. But what's your favorite car?
Oh my goodness, it's got to be that Blue Beetle. How cute is that? That's a classic. Nothing ever beats the Beetle. If they made it in automatic, I promise you.
Did they try? I mean, there was the millennial bug at one
remember.
point, right? But it didn't do so well, and you don't actually see a lot of them on the market.
Oh man, yes.
I know someone who had a white one. I actually know someone who still has their millennial bug right now. But I imagine that servicing that car might be quite difficult, just given the fact that perhaps the parts are hard to come by because they don't make them anymore.
I know.
What do you drive?
Oh no! Oh my gosh! I drive a very old car, very, very old car. I think it's 12 years old. I've always been trying to renew its maintenance plan. I think the guys told me, listen, it's come to an end now. So yeah, I drive a very old car.
Okay.
I drive an Audi,
an
Audi A4, which I love. We call it the whale. Remember those whales? It just looks like a whale.
It looks like a whale.
It's so solid. That girl is too strong.
Well, thank you so much for sharing also the personal side of what is a very hard business in the corporate sector, just looking at asset-based finance over at Wesbank. That was Khantse Radebe joining us on the Cars.co.za podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Fifi. Thanks, everyone.
Think of a car, any car. Yes, Cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you.